many hearts have you broken with those great big beautiful eyes? Those great big beautiful eyes that tell such beautiful lies.
How many times have you kissed somebody like you kissed me then? I don't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all ships at sea. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important message from the Prepared Mind Network.
Oh, I love that intro. Thank you again, Mr. T, for all the work you've done to help us here at the Prepared Mind channel. It is the weekend, folks. We made it. Barely, we made it. Welcome to the Prepared Mind channel. If you're new here, be sure and click subscribe. And while you're at it, click the notification bell. Look down in the description, video description. You're going to find out that there's 4 Prepared Mind channels. We've got this one, the primary, and then all the backup channels. If you're on Patreon, you just avoided a whole shitload of headaches. For $2 a month, folks, $2 a month, you can be on Patreon. That's right, all our good friends at YouTube. They don't like us. They don't like me. They don't like you. They don't like free speech. They just don't like it. No sirree, Bob. Anyways, we have some great promo commercials now, intros, outros, and everything in between tro. So we're gonna be incorporating them to encapsulate, or rather combine, the visuals with the audible. And folks, shit has hit the fan. If you want to see pictures of it, just tune in to anything the White House says. And if you want to see what's going on over in Afghanistan, you may have to tune into a news network other than those in the United States of America. They're not giving us the truth, folks. They're not giving us the facts. They're not. They're hiding everything from us. They won't even speak about it. In fact, the cackler-in-chief, that would be, of course, Kamala Harris, Vice President, she walked away laughing today when a reporter asked if Americans are safer after Biden botched the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Cackles, laughs. Folks, why the hell does President SSgt Biden and VP Kamala always laugh at America's misfortune and tragedies? They laugh. Folks, I think they're laughing at us as they destroy our nation. It is sick, sick, sick. And they're getting away with it, folks. They're getting away with laughing in our faces. It has to stop, folks. Get loud. Text, email, call, write, visit offices, and tell your elected representatives enough is enough of this shit. Always laughing at our nation's troubles. I mean, here's another that was Vice President Kamala. Get this, right? This chicken shit. Huge tragedy, Afghanistan. And Biden, President SSgt Biden, uses the Israeli Prime Minister's visit as an excuse not to address the total screw up. He laughed as his handlers shooed away reporters who were shouting questions at him today. About the 13 servicemen who were killed in the Kabul terror attack. He won't address it. He won't answer it. And he's laughing. He's behind a mask, but he's laughing like, ah, ha, ha, screw the American people. Chicken shit. All of them, folks. Every last one of them. By the way, get your questions in to Jolene, right? First half of the hour is mine. Second half hour is yours. It is the end of the week. It is the Q&A. And the next thing I want to do with you is, of course, award the coveted Horse's Ass Award. coveted Horse's Ass Award. It was tough this week, folks, with all the troubles going on. I've got two runner-ups. It would once again be Joe Biden, president, and then also Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, are runners-up. But the real, true Horse's Ass are the Joint Chiefs of Staff for the U.S. military, the Pentagon. The reason they win, folks, is they showed very poor leadership. It has now resulted in the death directly of our military men, 12 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman who were killed, and countless others, both Afghanis and American citizens, our American citizens killed in Kabul at the hands of the Taliban and ISIS-K, who apparently think the Taliban are just a little too soft and fuzzy, a little too nice and kind for their taste. Americans are dying, folks. And the reason the Horse's Ass Award goes to the Joint Chiefs of Staff is they should have never agreed to what was done. They knew better, folks. They knew better. What do I mean by that? The United Kingdom and Russia tipped off the United States about the Kabul attacks coming after Biden trusted the Taliban for their security. And the terrorists are already demanding ransom for stranded Americans. Well, isn't that Biden's fault? No, folks, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that really should land squarely on the shoulders of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You don't agree with the president on something this important. They pulled out of the airbase, right next to which was a prison where thousands of terrorists were being held. Whether they were Taliban terrorists or ISIS terrorists, it makes no difference. They just pulled out. Not only did the Afghan whoever go in and ransack the airbase, loot it, but they freed all of these terrorists. So not only did they abandon an airbase, not only did they entirely, the military, under direction and orders from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, leave $85 billion worth of equipment around for our enemy to pick up without destroying it. They agreed to that. They agreed to abandon the airbase. They agreed knowing that these prisoners would be freed out of the prison. They didn't walk by each cell and pop a cap in their ass, folks. They didn't give them a poisoned peanut butter sandwich to finish them off before they left them. They didn't leave them thinking that they were going to die a cruel and inhumane way for days and days baking in the sun. They knew they were going to be rescued by their fellow terrorist compatriots. And those people who were held in a military prison, probably under better conditions than our fellow American citizens who have constitutional rights and protections up in Washington, D.C. They don't get treated probably as well as these prisoners did. But those prisoners came out and they're pissed off. The Joint Chiefs of Staff completely failed, and they're still failing. I would have resigned my commission. I would not sit in the JCS under a president like Biden who agrees and orders me to tell my men to abandon fellow countrymen in enemy territory, knowing that radical, violent terrorists are going to be doing their absolute worst. And folks, I'm not the only one. I'm not an extremist. I am not radical. I'm not a DVE. I'm not one of those. I'm a patriotic American just like you. And I love my country, and I hate to see what's going on. And the military, the brass, the high brass is sitting there going, okay, I guess you're the boss, Biden. No, you put your frickin' signature on it too. If you're sitting on the Joint Chiefs of Staff and you're allowing this to happen while you're in command, and then you're giving shitty orders, no, sorry. It's not worth the paycheck, folks. It's not worth the paycheck. It's not worth the retirement. When are these people who are supposed to be in charge going to have some integrity and say, I'm not going to serve, not under these conditions? Folks, I refuse to serve under the conditions I was dealing with. You have a right and a duty, folks, to stand up for what is right and what is moral. And it's becoming more and more clear to me every day as we face these things. Folks, we had a failure in military intelligence. More failure from the woke Biden, Austin Joint Chiefs of Staff administration. Now the Pentagon has come out, folks, and says only one suicide bomber caused the blast near the Kabul airport. Near, it would look, if the military, our Marines, are inside the airport and 13 servicemen are killed, 12 Marines and a sailor. It's not just near the airport. It's at the airport, folks. And this is what he says. We're not sure how the report was provided incorrectly. Well, aren't you supposed to be getting firsthand reports? It's not like there's 30 people between the military spokesman in Washington, D.C., at the Pentagon, and whoever's counting dead American bodies in Kabul. It should be a pretty clear line, and we know what the fuck is going on. Military intelligence failure, Biden administration failure, and the horse's ass. And I don't say this with glee or happiness, goes to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who continue to fail not only their men and women who are in harm's way, but the American people who are in Afghanistan, the American people here in the United States of America, these United States, not the corporate United States, the independent, sovereign, 50 individual states. And that's going to become more apparent in this country as the states segregate themselves, as the states move into different groups, as they segregate and divide and say we're a free state. And within states where they say we're not part of that thing, that corporate subdivision at the Capitol. It is going to get ugly, folks. Absolutely ugly. Do not ever surrender to them. Don't surrender your will, your mind, your effort, your faith. Don't surrender. Don't give up. That's what they want. They want to beat us with attrition. They want to dishearten us and demoralize us. All they're doing is reminding me what tyrants do to their own people. Unbelievable. And the next thing I want to do, folks, and I'm trying to get through all of this as quickly as possible because it is the weekend. It is the weekend. And I want to get to your questions. Folks, I've got a lot of questions that are unanswered, and I'm afraid they're not going to be answered, but we'll do our best to address everything with each other. The U.S. Navy corpsman who was killed in this blast along with his Marine brethren. And folks, when I was at Camp Del Mar, which is part of Camp Pendleton down by San Diego, Marine Corps base. Camp Del Mar is where the corpsmen were trained. They're trained to do what they do, to stand side by side with Marines and offer medical support. You know, so this, he may as well be a Marine to me. This Navy corpsman, and I worked with corpsmen also in the corporate world. My HR assistant was a corpsman. Anyways, corpsman's name, folks, is Maxton Soviak. His name has been released. He is a hero who was serving there, trying to help, basically while their hands are being tied by the administration. I just wanted a moment of appreciation and just how it goes. This is what they do, folks. This is what they do. And speaking of what they do, YouTube has been unsubscribing people left and right on the channel. We've been growing anywhere from 300 to 500 subscribers a day because you guys are sharing videos. Sharing videos is one of the things you can do to help others while you get ready and prep with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. We're getting new people here every day, folks, new people. So make sure you subscribe and then check back. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified. It shows up in your feed and it shows up as a new video being released. They're going to try to unsubscribe you, folks. That's what they do. That's what YouTube is doing to a lot of people. A lot of people. Now, once again, even though I've talked about it a little here and there, I want to remind everyone, folks, that Vice News, a Democrat, socialist, communist, leftist pile of shit media outlet, has described Marines as neo-Nazis. Navy SEAL veteran and representative in the United States House of Representatives, Dan Crenshaw, said we lost 11 Marines today, you fucking assholes. That's exactly what they are, folks. I want to remind you, they have pronounced us the enemy. And I think it's more than just Marines. They just seem to think the Marines produces the most neo-Nazis. How about the Marines produce the most patriots? Even though I don't think that's true, folks. I think the Army produces just as many. But we saw with that little pixie of a scumbag, I believe a staff sergeant in the Army, who was blabbing all over the internet about how when the Constitution, right, it doesn't apply. When she gives orders on the street and there's martial law and you don't obey, it's your ass. You don't have constitutional protections. She let the world know, well, right now the world is all over her ass. I don't believe in canceling people, folks. Nope, I believe in letting that little broad talk. Shoot your mouth off, honey. Keep it up so everyone can hear everything you leftist scumbags have to say. She was reveling and marveling in all the power the military is going to have when martial law is declared, and she can come out on the street and openly condemn Americans and their freedom and go after them and treat them like the enemy. That's right, folks. She called us the enemy. The military is internally under siege by communists. The military in itself, just like us, folks, is splitting. Understand this and watch it. It's happening. You may not see it or hear it unless you have members in the military, family members. Just like with the people, you divide them up. You create something by which you divide them. And they've started this shit since that scumbag Lloyd Austin took the chair handed to him by President G. Biden, the Secretary of Defense, with his, oh, we have domestic violent extremists and white supremacists and all kinds of violent extremists in the military. Basically, Trump supporters, conservatives, patriots. So they've divided the military. And now they're dehumanizing us. The same way they do with the general population, they're doing it with them. They divide the military into right and left instead of everyone's a soldier or everyone's a Marine or everyone's a sailor or everyone's an airman. Now it's left and right. It's communist versus neo-Nazi. Then they're going to dehumanize. Neo-Nazis need to be killed. They're the same as Hitler. They're very bad. They're racists. They're white supremacists. And once you justify this division and demonization, then they can take action against. Whether they discharge them or start arresting people they don't like inside the military, folks. That too will come to pass as this type of shit gets worse and worse. Absolutely unfucking believable what's going on. We got word from RFK Jr., that would be John F. Kennedy, president, his nephew, said we all need to resist. It's a Patreon-only story. You have to go to Patreon to get it. I wish I could just put it out here and talk about this, folks, but I can't. The same way I wish I could talk about this California civil integrity issue that is now up. There's watchdog groups that are pointing out some very big problems in California, folks, and I can't tell you more. It's on Patreon only. There we have links to videos, articles, opinion pieces, as well as the worldwide weekly wrap-up, uncensored. And I'm sure this week I'm going to probably sound like I'm not very happy with what's going on, because I'm not. Incredible, folks. More on Patreon only. Now, back to the Pentagon. I wish I could talk about everything with the Kool-Aid kid and the zombie juice that's out there, but I can't say a word about it, folks. Instead, I'll talk about the Pentagon spokesman, John Kirby. Right? He did say, not me, he came out and said thousands of ISIS prisoners were released, right? because there were not one, I was mistaken earlier when I said there was a prison next to the Bagram Air Force Base that was abandoned. It was 2 prisons, folks. And instead of moving these terrorists to Gitmo or some other facility because they are captured war criminals or they are captured enemy combatants, now they've been released. Do you think for a second that Gigi Biden, the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff didn't know this would happen? I don't think that for a second, folks. Now, back here domestically, and I feel like I'm rushing everything, folks. I feel like I'm not saying enough. But I think I'm saying everything that I can at the same time. In Arizona, in Pinal County, P-I-N-A-L, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb said mandates are the equivalent of weak leadership. He said, your health choices are yours and yours alone. Once again, folks, our country is dividing itself. Our country's being divided. Now, we, patriotic, constitutional, tax-paying, moral, decent, good Americans, we are not telling people on the political left what to do. We're not saying, communists, you can't get medical help. We're not saying, communists, you can't breathe air. We're not saying, communists, we're going to put you in prison. We're saying, leave us alone. They're the ones coming after us, folks. They're the ones forcing the division. They're the ones using mainstream media to dehumanize us, me and you. They're the ones pushing this. And we're starting to get pushback from real leadership, folks. The sheriffs, the constitutional sheriffs in the United States of America are leading the way. And I want to hear from constitutional chiefs of police on police departments telling the mayor or the city council that they're taking orders from when they demand unconstitutional enforcement of their edicts, rules, and bullshit laws. They say, no, we're not enforcing that. That is unconstitutional. It is unlawful. And your orders are wrong, and we're not going to enforce them. Just like the Joint Chiefs of Staff, if they say, I don't care what you think, that chief of police should resign and say, I'm not enforcing your unconstitutional orders. I'm not for sale, not for a chicken shit paycheck. So God bless you, Sheriff Mark Lamb in Arizona. Folks, it's getting nasty. It is getting nasty. It's getting stupid and stupider too in Virginia. In Virginia, folks. Let me help you with this one. In Gloucester County, the school board is paying $1.3 million in a settlement to a former student who was a trans. And they got a picture of this slob wearing a shirt that says, nobody is illegal. Nobody is illegal. So, of course, they're claiming to be something they're not. Used to be called gender dysphoria, was the medical term. Now it's something else. So this person wins $1.3 million because they weren't allowed to use the bathroom that they identified with. Absolutely incredible what is happening, folks. And guess what? The victims of stupidity are us, because the people, and in this case specifically the people of Virginia, are the ones who have to pay this slob because they wanted to sue because they weren't allowed to go in a bathroom that did not match their biological gender. Folks, I'm a man. It's in the genitals, and it's in every single cell in my body. Every single cell of my body screams male. It screams man. A little bit of gray mush up here with some drugs and a couple of chemicals and some hormones changing around doesn't change the fact that what's between my legs and in every single cell But they would have you believe that, folks. They would have us believe their abject stupidity. It's all part of destroying this country, folks. It's just one more piece. I wanted to give that to you for the weekend. Enjoy that, right? Enjoy that. You know, and speaking of this, folks, Trump renamed SSgt Biden the surrenderer in chief earlier in the week, who lied to America. And every day, folks, every day you and I are seeing that that name is more and more self-evident. By the hour, it seems like I get a new story proving that they are surrendering not just our military bases and our military positions, and not just surrendering, well, I guess, surrendering our allies as well. But SSgt Biden is surrendering American supremacy. And not just military supremacy, folks, but moral supremacy. America used to be a very moral and decent place where the government did things for moral reasons and objected to other countries doing things that were immoral. If any country around the world was to look at the United States right now, do you think for 1 second they would go, wait a minute, let's listen to what America says, everybody? You know, after all, there are very moral people over there. Nobody says that. Nobody. Not anymore, folks. They're absolutely surrendering our supremacy. Here's another Patreon only. And folks, this story is so unbelievable that it's totally believable. It has to do with a certain illness. It has to do with certain stuff. If you're a Patreon member, go read about Israel. Go find that article. It'll be posted there. Jolene will get it up there. It is an incredible story. It is mind-boggling. It is basically unbelievable, but it's apparently true, folks. What they are doing to the world right now is beyond a crime against humanity. The crime, the genocide that's being attempted is so flagrant, so over the top, so huge now, folks, that to admit they were wrong, to admit doing what they did was a mistake, it would be no excuse. So they're going to continue to push their program, which is going to make things even worse. They will never admit it, folks. Do you think Hitler, if he was captured alive, would have admitted in Nuremberg, would have confessed what he did and admitted it was wrong? Do you think if the world could have got its hands on Stalin or Mao, that they would admit that they killed tens of millions of their own countrymen and admitted that it was wrong? No, they wouldn't. They would neither admit to the crime nor admit to their guilt. I bet on those extra warm days in hell, as those characters sit around the table playing, I guess, cards while they wear buckets of shit on their head, that they sit around and brag about all the people they killed. I don't know what they're doing, folks, but those are not good souls. And we have people in charge right now who have equally evil souls. And I don't say that lightly, folks, and I don't say it with a glad heart, because every day I'm reading about people who are being injured, who are suffering, who are dying because of the decisions made by those in charge who think they have a right to determine everyone else's fate because they are such elitist, powerful people. I don't think they're good, though, folks. Their decisions are not good. I don't want to hear about it. It's for the greater good. It's always for their good. That's why they're evil, folks. They're megalomaniac assholes. And look at what they're doing to our precious country. I also want to thank Uman for the use of his shop. He sent everyone home early today. I snuck in here because I wanted some fresh air. There's nothing like the smell of burnt oil and carbon in the morning and in the evening. Thank you very much, Uman. All right, it is 30 minutes. I want to get to your questions. We're starting to pick up our live in-house people who are watching. Thank you, everyone on Patreon, for supporting the Prepared Mind Network and all of the research, reporting, opinion sharing, everything. Special thanks to everyone who is emailing me. You know who you are. From John to Mr. Skylight to Leanne to Christine to everybody, JJ, everybody. I can't name everybody, but everybody know who you are, Fuzzy. Everybody knows. Don't bury me, but keep doing what you do. I think we've got a good system set up. And folks, I want to remind everyone to go to the rsyndicate.com. Take a look at this. Thank you, Mr. T, for putting that together for the R Syndicate. A lot of people just don't understand what the R Syndicate is. It is a platform, it's a website that redirects you to everyone else in the prepper world. And we're everywhere, folks. There are millions of us, and that means there are hundreds, if not thousands, of prepper websites and people who are sharing information. We're just one of them at the Prepared Mind Network, and we try and promote everyone as a source of information to get prepared for what's coming. Shit, for what's here now. Let's do this. We've got Granny Stout said, I just lowered the flag in our front yard to half staff. Thank you very much for honoring our fallen corpsmen. If I have names or when I get names of the Marines and other service personnel who are more than likely to face the threat of annihilation, folks. Now, when you're in that situation, when you're there on the ground and things are bad, you don't get a chance to think about it. Afterwards, they will. Right? I get to reflect on a lot of stuff. I'm an old guy. They're there in the thick of it, and they're thinking one thing right now: get the job done. But we back here, back home, you know, we appreciate respect and you know, send our condolences and our prayers to the families of those who have lost their loved ones, and other servicemen and women who have comrades, brothers and sisters who are in harm's way right now, while President Kamhola cackles and Joe Biden snickers about it. Thank you very much. We got Jason Walker. He says, a moment of silence for our fallen Marines and corpsmen, Semper Fi. Let us move on if we can. Kathleen says this: yesterday, Patriot Nurse had a hard-hitting podcast, said we were on our own. She brought up the Convention of States as a start to handling the situation in our country. Please elaborate on this as a solution. Thank you. Patriot Nurse has been on YouTube, I think, longer than I have. She has been a terrific spokesman, or spokeswoman, if you will, for all things prepping, certainly from the medical side, but she's very patriotic, very outspoken, articulate, etc. What is the solution to our problem? The Constitution was written to empower the government to perform certain prescribed and limited duties. It was restrictive, not expansive. The government thinks it's an expansive document, that if it's not restricted specifically, that they should be allowed to assume authority. The Bill of Rights was in response to the idea that, well, if we're not restricting them, right, the government, then it can get out of control. So they did the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the most famous of which, in my opinion, are the first, second, fourth, and fifth. But the other amendments are also very important, including the 10th. The 10th Amendment, which stated that essentially any authority or power not specifically granted to the United States government in Washington, D.C. was reserved to the states themselves. The idea that the states are independent countries, that's what a state is, folks. In the United States, we just think of it as little pieces of our overall country, that our country is one big piece. It is not. It is 50 little countries joined together under a single currency, which is established in the Constitution, with uniform laws and concepts under common law. But the government of the United States, or rather the United States corporate government, has decided and has been in the practice of convincing the people that they are the primary authority, the real ruler, if you will, the control over the whole country. Now, that was a question that was put up back in the 1860s. That's right, folks, 150 years ago, it was fought over in the Civil War. And we're back at it again. Does that little 5-mile square pile of shit area called Washington, D.C., a true shithole, a cesspool, if you will, of rotted, fetid, stinking garbage, does it really have the right and authority to tell the rest of North America what to do, including Canada, for God's sake, and Mexico? Does it have a right to tell everyone what to do? That little 5-by-5 square mile pile of shit. Or is it 10-by-10? Doesn't matter, folks. That's a lot of shit. Does it or not? So when Patriot Nurse was talking about this, the organization of states, and I've heard about constitutional conventions over the last couple of decades, and a lot of different ways that the states or representative members from within the states want to come together and say, hey, 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 you can't do that, United States government. No tyrant, folks, is going to let go. And I'm not being negative. I'm not saying that Prepper Nurse or Patriot Nurse is wrong or bad. There's a Prepper Nurse also. There's lots of them. It's just anytime any government, any institution, any public body, private company or private organization or NGO, non-government organization, tells the United States government what to do or how it's going to be, it doesn't work. It has no effect because tyrants don't listen to anything other than their own interest. So you can have all 50 states of the United States of America say, that's it, the Constitution is null and void, therefore Washington, D.C. is null and void. We're all independent, free states, free to associate with who we will, free to pass whatever laws that we will within our state. We are independent organizations, and each state, folks, has its own constitution. Did you know that? That's modeled after the original United States Constitution. Each having its own Bill of Rights, respecting the same things: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of the press, freedom to petition for redress of grievances, right to keep and bear arms. Even stupid states like California, New York, Illinois, and Hawaii, some of the 4 stupidest states with regard to guns, they even have their own Second Amendments, even though they violate them on a daily basis. But each state is its own little country with its own set of rules, its own legislatures, its own chief executive, if you will, called a governor. That's the title they have. What would happen if the 50 states wanted to break up? Would the United States government go, I guess we can't do anything about it? Same answer every time, folks. Tyrants don't give up their power. So no matter what attempt is made, I doubt the U.S. government is going to let go of their iron grip from their iron fist that they have around everyone's necks. No tyrant has ever given up without a fight. Period. Dangerous freedom as a statement. With all the BS in Afghanistan, we Americans must stay focused on what is happening here in the States. They are under full attack on patriots. That is true. We are the targets, folks. The people of the United States have been declared the enemy of the government. Now, I have not, nor have I heard anyone here say the United States government is the enemy and we need to go stop them. What we're trying to say is the United States government is supposed to be serving the American people and serving the several states. They are public servants who are supposed to be working for us. But they seem to think the shoe is on the other hand. But they have declared us to be the enemy. In fact, their propaganda, their ministry of propaganda, known as mainstream media, is taking further and further steps to declare us, the American people, the enemy. Specifically today, calling the United States Marines neo-Nazis. While the military in the United States government is calling anyone who doesn't agree with their communist propaganda, which they are more and more, frankly speaking, folks, they're more and more openly proclaiming. It's not just that their decisions are a little suspect, or their decisions are now blatantly anti-American, and their policies are blatantly anti-American, teaching and pushing their critical race theory, their anti-white, anti-constitution, anti-American propaganda on the American military structure. The military has declared that members of its own organization that don't agree with the political leadership are the enemy. Within our schools, we have the school system, school administrators, school boards, teachers calling parents Nazis and telling parents they don't get to decide what their kids learn. The education system, all the way from kindergarten, all the way up. Media, folks, television, newspapers, internet, big tech companies, corporations, the government, the military, the legal system. Folks, the American Bar Association is not a bunch of neutral lawyers concerned about the preservation of the law and making sure that ethics and morality is upheld at the highest standards. Not a fucking chance. That's why people don't like attorneys already. It's because finding a decent attorney is incredibly difficult because they're more than willing to just screw everybody for a paycheck. I've known a lot of good attorneys, folks. But you look at the legal system, it's a fucking mess. Look what the Supreme Court's been doing. Look at how that jackass judge, whatever the fuck his face was, that was trying to prosecute Michael Flynn from the bench. From the bench, the judge who's supposed to remain neutral and apply procedure. The rules of the court, the rules of the proceedings, is acting as a prosecutor from the bench, trying to keep Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, an honorable, retired military man who committed his life to serving the country through his position in the military, right? Wanted to basically imprison him over political grounds, political reasons, because they viewed him as a threat. So they used their legal machinery to commit an act of civil war. This is what this is, folks. This is war. It's lawfare, warfare. It's social war, known as wokeism or social justice warriors out there. It's a social justice war. It's a social equity war. It's an educational war. Look where we're at, folks. This is not our country that we grew up in. Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro, Obama said this, right, that he wants to change this country, the United States of America, fundamentally. Now, the word fundamental is based off the same Latin concept is the foundation, fundamental foundation, right? The bottom, what holds things, the foundation upon which all things else rest. To fundamentally change is to change the basis on which everything rests. In other words, he wants to fundamentally change the country. He wants to move, or rather remove, the founding structure. And they are doing that right now, are they not? With Vice President Kamala Harris, spent the year of 2020 ensuring that felons were released from prison and encouraged to continue burning, looting, and murdering. The Vice President of the United States, folks, engaged in that. That's our country right now. You think there's not a problem? You think that everything was on the up and up? That it was all fair and square and that America wants to be a communist screwball? No. No. And the communists, folks, the people that are pushing for communism, half of them don't even know what's coming next. We know more about what to expect next and their own future because we're paying attention to facts, not living in fucking fantasy land. All right, let's move on. We got Penelope checks in. Hey, Penelope, always good to hear from you. Always, always, always good to hear from you. Asks, what is the likelihood of cases of mutiny within the military branches? And what would that look like in the end? Rather scary to consider, in my opinion. I don't know. I just don't know what it's going to look like when it happens. I am just certain that it's going to happen. And it's probably going to be like anything else. There's going to be a Lexington and Concord moment. Or you could say when that little bit of snow at the top of the mountain starts to fall and it spins and it picks up more snow and more momentum as it goes. There's going to be somewhere orders that are given that are going to be questionable, if not unethical, if not completely unlawful and unconstitutional. And somebody at some level is going to say, no more. Not going to follow those orders. Not going to get on that plane. I'm not going to get in that tank. I'm not going to pick up that weapon and do what you said. Now, again, that little female tart staff sergeant who was talking about you not having constitutional rights, when she shows up, knocks on your door and tells you to obey her commands. The next thing that's going to happen to anyone that does that is they're going to be met with a very loud, high volume, loud argument that there isn't going to be much of a response to. It's not going to happen the way they think. That is going to invite nothing but chaos. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people surrendering, folks. You bet. There'll be a lot of people going and getting in that van or getting on that bus or getting in that train. You bet. There's going to be plenty of people who are more than willing to bend over and kiss the boot. Maybe even lick it a little bit too, so it's nice and shiny. There's going to be a lot of people that say, fuck no and fuck you. My liberty is more important than my life, and I will defend my liberty with my own life, as well as I'll defend the lives of my neighbors and my fellow countrymen against anyone who thinks the Constitution is suspended because some jackass in a fucking uniform has been given some awful orders, and they're more than willing to follow them for a stinking, smelly paycheck because they think that because they are authorized and wear a uniform, that they have a right to violate other people's right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, property ownership, right to travel, right to exist. It's an act of war, folks. At some point, though, Penelope, there's going to be a unit commander, there's going to be a sergeant major or a top first sergeant. There's going to be a gunny somewhere that says, no, that's the end of it, we quit. There are going to be units, folks, where the either NCOs or staff NCOs know that their men and women are patriots and that they are going to decide whether you want to call it defecting to a free state or going unauthorized absence and deserting their unit, their branch of the service, or deserting the United States government, because it is no longer, they will find themselves in a position to no longer follow orders because they are that disgusting. Whether you call it unconstitutional, immoral, illegal, It doesn't, at some point it's going to happen. And that will be the start of it. I believe there are already people who are deserting over the jungle juice because they don't want to take the jungle juice. They don't want the Kool-Aid. And I bet they're deserting and leaving and saying, I'm not going to fucking do it. It's not worth $2,000 a month. Whatever the hell they pay the enlisted people these days. It's not worth it. Is it going to be that? Is it, do you want to serve an evil institution that looks at its own citizens as the enemy, that looks at their own formerly served veterans and say, you're evil, or looking at their own units and within their own units and picking people out and saying, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, who's going to sit around and wait for that day? Standing in formation, right? And they just start reading off names. Fred, Mark, and John, please step forward and exit the ranks. Get in the van, you're going to the brig. Because you don't like the politics coming out of Washington, D.C. Those days are going to happen, folks. And when that starts, I am sure the response is not going to be one of positive happiness. I'm pretty sure of that. All right. We got Kaz checking in. Thank you, Kaz. Thank you, Uman, for exercising authority with your blue wrench as well. Thank you, sir, very much. Folks, the Prepared Mind Network, the Prepared Mind team, the R Syndicate behind the scenes work very hard all day long. Very hard, going over information, pouring through it, all while they have real lives and jobs. All of us, you included, real lives and jobs, but we're putting the time into understanding the world right now so that you can make the right decisions for yourself, your family, your children. So Kaz says this, status update on Staff Sergeant Cindy Bronson. That's the one I'm calling the little pixie from hell that decided that the Constitution doesn't matter and that she's going to knock on your door and give you an order. And if you don't obey, you're going to get shot or killed or whatever because, you know, she's the boss. A fucking Karen in uniform. Anyways, let me continue with Kaz's status update. Staff Sergeant Cindy Bronson, apparently her commanding officers have been getting calls all day long. Her unit at Fort Bliss has been in briefings as well all day. It's not going well for her. Folks, I do not want her silenced. I want her and her message to get out loud and fucking clear. Staff Sergeant Cindy Bronson, be proud of your opinions and your thoughts as a communist, Nazi, fascist, piece of shit thug in a uniform. Be proud of who you are. Keep talking. Don't let your commanding officer stop you. Don't let your unit officer stop. Don't let your lieutenant tell you no. Don't listen to your first sergeant and your sergeant major. No. Don't do that. I want you to keep shooting your fucking lips off so the American people learn exactly who you are, and I'm sure there are many more like you in the military, folks. And this came out from, I think, Uman or Uman's son, who said, the reason you old guys, you old veterans, the reason you can't believe that the military would turn on the American people is because when you served, there is no fucking way in hell the military would have turned on its own people. But it's a different military today. For 30 years since we were in, or 20, depending on how old you are, 10, or 40 or 60 folks, got some old fucking vets around here, some salt. Right? These young ones, there's communists coming out of high school and joining the service. Hell, I knew one. I think he's 40 now. Fucking commie. Fucking commie went through the army. They're out there, folks. And more they join the military because they know they're not serving the Constitution and freedom. They know that eventually they're going to have enough numbers to take over everything. And look where we're at. Shit has hit the fan, and this little frickin' tart wants to shoot her mouth off, or how she's going to knock on your door and come after you. And you better obey her. I could pick her up with one fucking arm and dispose of her properly, folks. Think those fucking stripes are going to scare me? So yeah, the older veterans, folks, can't believe it because it would have never happened in our time, and it didn't. You know, I could talk to Major Kelly, a brother of mine, who's retired Army, was asked at West Point if he would follow orders or give orders to confiscate weapons from the American people. And this is back in the early 80s. The military's been asking this question for God knows how long and from who. But certainly I believe it coming out of West Point. Not a big fan. And even there's a lot of West Point graduates that aren't a big fan. Folks, it's about the Constitution and freedom. That's really what matters. Our rights matter. Everything else should extend from that. And for most veterans, folks, and most military people, that's how it is, or was. Certainly not now. Now, that is not to say, and I'm not condemning any branch of the service, nor am I saying that, they're lost. I'm just saying there's a lot of these scumbags in there. And certainly in the officer corps, from colonel onward, the promotions are largely political. Who is above them? Who is in control at the Joint Chiefs of Staff? Who's in control in the White House and the Secretary of Defense? Who's controlling the Pentagon? And that's how that upper brass has been politicized. If you recall, Obama was elected president over 12 years ago. He spent 8 years in the White House. And during his tenure as president of the United States, regardless of what you think of his birth certificate, he purged the military, especially the general ranks, of as many conservative generals as possible, making room for other officers to move up into their positions who met their political standard that was being set. There was a military purge, folks. It happened 8 years ago, 10 years ago, when Obama was president. And now we have fucking President Gigi in there, Gigi Biden. That's right. And who do you think he's promoting, and who do you think they're getting rid of? Like I said, I would not sit in there as a general and take those orders and I'd resign. I'm not going to participate in this shit. And like when I was a Marine also, folks, they said, John, if you leave, if you quit, there's going to be one less good guy. And this was Staff Sergeant Anderson talking to me. One less good guy, and that's going to make them more powerful. But it comes down to morals, folks. I will not serve under a scumbag command. Not going to do it. When you're at that level, the general level, the command you're under is the political command. And if they're doing what they're doing, it's a two-edged sword, folks. You stand in there and fight as long as you can. But I would not put my name on a death sentence to my own men. And that's what they're doing there. That's what they've done. I understand there's hard decisions, folks. I understand it's not an easy equation. It's not just 1 + 1. It's not even 2 + 2. It's pretty much fucking calculus between the politics and everything else. I get it. They're not easy decisions to make. And I would never say that they are. But by golly, these fucking people are making some big, big mistakes. All right, we got Knights Fighting Snails checking in. Says, how does this airport fiasco end? With throngs of people crowding and attacking? Who provides the security for the last soldiers leaving the airport? Well, the government has said that the military personnel are leaving, whether or not the civilians have been evacuated, whether or not the Americans who were hired by the government, sent to Afghanistan, under the presumption that they were going to have military security and protection. They're the ones who are going to be left behind, folks. And all of the veterans and all of the active duty people that I've heard that are patriots who have spoken on this said they should not be leaving. They should not leave Americans there. Not when we have power, folks. Not when we have an opportunity or an option for the Biden administration to pretend that the Taliban run everything and that we have to ask permission of them. It's a fucking farcical concept. Not fartsicle, a farcical concept that the enemy, who for some reason the Biden administration has surrendered our equipment, our bases, and the people to, are going to have to also obey their edicts to leave their ragtag little shithole. It's not good, folks. Who's going to leave? Who's going to be the last one to leave? I don't know. I am hoping that some commander somewhere along the line, Marine Corps or Army, says we're not leaving until every American is evacuated. And that someone has the fucking balls all the way up to some general somewhere to say we're not leaving. Right? You can fucking court-martial me when we're done, but I'm not going to let people die to keep my job so I can put a plaque on the wall saying I made it. Lives matter first. The people, Americans, matter first. Not your precious fucking commission. Tom R. says, do you think we still have to adapt a Taliban mentality to survive all this? Do you think we will have to adapt? This question, Tom R. Do you think we will have to adapt a Taliban mentality to survive all this? I don't know what you mean by Taliban mentality, so I cannot answer that question. You see, right now it seems like the United States government and the Taliban have very similar mentalities, that they are going to silence their opposition, that they will punish their opposition, that they run and own everything, and that the people are their servants and must obey. That seems to be the mentality that the United States government and the Taliban have. But I don't want to answer a question that is vague and could possibly have someone look at me and go, geez, John, you want to be the Taliban? That makes you the enemy of the United States. Because one day the Taliban is the enemy. The next day, they're our allies and our protectors in Afghanistan. And the next day it could go back to being the Taliban's our enemy again. And then they say, well, John, the Taliban's the enemy, and you said you're going to adopt their mentality. You must be the enemy too. I'm not going to put my head in that alligator's mouth. Let us move on. Lynn Duvall says, John, what are the chances that some of those active duty age refugees coming here may have a, quote, meeting scheduled for September 11th? Well, the chances are damn good that some of them are. If I was the Taliban, now I know they're not the brightest fucking candles in the box. They're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I know the Taliban and its elevator doesn't go all the way top. I know the lights are on in a lot of cases, but no one's really home. I know their cheese is slid off their cracker. Right? I know they're a bunch of fucking knuckleheads. But how hard is it to go, 19 out of 20 people getting on planes at Kabul International Airport are Afghanis, not Americans. 1 out of 20 is an American. Can you fucking believe those statistics, first of all? But let's continue. Let us continue. 19 out of those. So what we could do is we could put Taliban sleepers in there who pretend to be wanting to be free. Maybe 1 out of 20 of those is Taliban, a terrorist who says, I want to be free. I want to be free. God bless America. America's great. And they let them on the plane. They're flown to America. They get off the plane and they go gather at whatever city or state. They're allowed to travel freely wherever they want. Look at these Mexican immigrants who come across the border who are given money and a fucking plane, train, or automobile ticket to wherever they want in the country. No questions asked. Here you go. Get the fuck out of here. Meanwhile, Americans in their own fucking country are being told, put a burqa over your mouth. That's a face diaper, a burqa, face burqa. Put a burqa over your face. Shut up. You don't get to say anything. Do as we say. Go get some jungle juice. Get some Kool-Aid. Yeah, there's a good chance, folks, that a number of them are Taliban sleepers, lone wolf terrorists. It's not a good scene, folks. Not a good scene at all. I know we're past an hour. I know it is the weekend. Jolene, do we have more questions? Are we done? I didn't see the thing come up. You probably put it up and said, that's it for today, John. Anyways, no, we do have more. We do have more. So stand by. Bonnie Blue, 2A, says everyone needs at least one side gig to meet the gaps from potential job loss and inflation. Inflation is here, folks. Woo, inflation is bad, and it's going to get worse. Start looking now. Have a backup plan for your income. Have a backup plan to make sure that, like let's say you make $2,000 every 2 weeks, and it takes $1,800 of that to get by. You only had a little bit of money, a cushion. You have a little cushion, paycheck to paycheck, just a little cushion, little cushion, little cushion. That cushion can disappear really quick in an inflationary and hyperinflationary situation, which is exactly precisely where we're at now. Having a side job, a second job to replace the one you have in case you show up, got your nice little Coca-Cola jacket on. You're like, I'm going to go deliver some Coca-Cola today. And they're like, hey, this is Woca-Cola now, and we're a politicized corporation. So if you don't drink the zombie juice, if you don't go get a tequila shot and have a good day, then you can get a Coke and get the fuck out of here. Right? They can fire your ass. I know people right now, folks, several people communicating and talking with me. Fuck, it's not several, it's probably dozens, if not hundreds of people who are like, you know what? I don't know what's happening next. Start thinking about and finding a job or getting a second job now. Spouses need to start looking, what can I do to make things better? The United States Supreme Court finally decided that the Constitution matters this week and said the eviction moratorium is unconstitutional, meaning everyone is going to have to pay their fucking rent. Aha. It takes anywhere from 2 to 6 months to evict people, depending on which state you're in. And a lot of these evictions are going to be fought in court. People are going to say, hey, the government said, and the government extended it. And, you know, what are you spending your fucking money on anyways? Probably on all of these items coming from China. Yeah, the eviction moratorium ending means there's going to be a lot of people who are going to have to start paying money that they may not have. 2 to 6 months, people are going to be getting evicted and thrown out on their fucking asses because the landlord's going to say, not only do you owe me this month's rent, jackass, but you owe me 18 months back rent. How the fuck are you going to pay that? Even if the rent is only $1,000 a month, and I hope that everyone only pays $1,000 a month, but I know that's not true. $1,000 a month times 18 months, that's $18,000. You'll have a check for me at the end of next month or your ass is out. Not just for the month's rent, but for the $18,000 you owe me. There's going to be a lot of that going on, folks. Oh, can't you forgive it? Yeah, I'll forgive your rent because the bank is really going to give me a fucking break too. No, it's going to be a fucking mess. That mess is coming. Oh, when's that mess going to hit? What happens in the next 2 to 6 months? Christmas, the holiday season, and winter. People being evicted in the holiday season, people being evicted all winter. What a gift from our charitable masters in Washington, D.C. Moving on, Opie Waddell says, John, just wondering when they will start putting Jim Jones juice components, sprayed, dipped, coated, baked, fried, frozen, poked, smeared, etc., into the food supply. Woo! Okay. I cannot discuss the components of the Jim Jones juice because they are proprietary in nature. What I will say is that I really hope they don't. If they do, I'm sure that cooking and processing probably reduces their effectiveness. Now, getting sprayed in the face with it was going to result in some people meeting an untimely end. And I know you named all different ways that this could happen. Our digestive systems are full of really nasty chemicals like hydrochloric acid, bile, and our digestive system is very sensitive to foreign material that it objects to. And if they put that crap in our food, how much is enough and how much is too much? Kind of like putting fluoride in the water. If someone drinks a lot of water, they're going to get a lot more fluoride, which has a medicinal quality when taken in volume. So how can, right, putting fluoride in water be good for people if they don't get enough, or if they get too much, it causes problems? Well, fuck it. Let's just put it in there anyway, because, you know, government knows best. I'm glad that finally got the exposure it needed, and I'm sure many cities don't give an absolute rat's ass about their people. And they want to put fluoride in the water because it used to be about teeth. It used to be about our teeth, our dental care. Now it's, we are the government and we're going to do it whether you like it or not. Heidi says, I have to wonder if the left behind are JB's answer to Trump talking to them, or Glenn Beck. I have to wonder if the left behind, that is those in Afghanistan, folks, are being left behind, and that's Joe Biden's retaliation for Trump going after him, or Glenn Beck taking action. I'm sure that Gigi is not happy with either Trump or Glenn Beck, but the fate of those in Afghanistan, in my opinion, those actions and decisions that were made, I think those were foregone conclusion. And the fact that Trump spoke to them and has given them hope, or Glenn Beck or other international institutions, not just American. There are many institutions that are gathering money, chartering planes, flying them in, paying for the fuel, trying to figure shit out, trying to save and rescue people, right? One, it shows how little the United States government and the winners of the horse's ass, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, how little they actually thought about the safety and welfare of those they had been charged with protecting. Yeah, and so any spite that Gigi Biden has for them, it was probably sufficient at levels prior to Trump getting involved, or any of these other charitable institutions and individuals. Okay, I tell you folks, it has been a hell of a fucking week. Shit has hit the fan. I mean, is there anyone here that is still on the fence going, I don't know, John. I don't know. I mean, things are kind of iffy out there. There's some bad stuff happening, but I don't know if shit has hit the fan. Not quite yet. I don't think we're quite there yet. Is anyone on that fence? Fuck. Or has everyone jumped over on the side of, yep, we're in that room now, right? We're in that yard. We're all here in this area now. Shit has hit the fan. I'm pretty sure that's it. Let's take a fucking poll. Who thinks everything is just fine? Crickets. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Share this video. Share all videos. Get people into the Prepared Mind Network. Come to Patreon if you can, because it is the #1 way. If they just wipe me off of YouTube, you won't know about it because you're on Patreon and you get all the information. You get all the news stories. You get the opinion pieces. You get the Worldwide Weekly Wrap-Up uncensored. You get everything. Now, sadly, if you're on YouTube and they wipe me out, you're like, where the fuck did John go? That's why we have 4 channels. Subscribe to all of them. But it would be best if everyone went to Patreon. It would just save a bunch of trouble. $2 a month, 7 cents a day. That's it. Anyways, folks, here we are. What is this really all about? This is about the government. The United States government in Washington, D.C. saying, guess what? Your rights don't matter. Just like that little fucking tart says, when she comes in, knocks on your door and says, get outside, get on the bus, do as you're told. You are now the enemy of the country, the government, and I here as a member of the military will enforce the government's will upon you, because your constitutional rights are hereby suspended, revoked, taken away, pissed on, set on fire, and burned and thrown in the trash. Okay. Just to put it lightly, right? That's what they think of your freedoms. This is precisely what this is about. Our freedoms, our rights, our liberty, and this is our country. This country belongs to the people. It's about freedom. Folks, it's about freedom. Semper